Hello lovelies! Today we have a special collaboration hosted by His Name is Akin. For this collaboration we were supposed to take a well-known character and do a gender bend of them. For me, I've always wanted to do a Harley Quinn doll, and I've never really tackled a male doll on this channel yet. So I will be using this daring charming, or rather his head, to make Charley Quinn. So the first thing we're going to do is remove his head with some boiling hot water, and then start the arduous task of removing his hair. Daring's head is really big for this BTS body, but I want to try to use it anyway because it has better articulation and no molded on pants. I really hate his molded on hair. It was so stuck on there. I think I spent at least a half an hour trying to get it off. When I finally did, you can see there's this nice big empty gap in his skull. Before we can try to fill that in, I'm going to first shrink his head. I'll be following Girly Doll's tutorials on how to shrink the head. I'm using the slow shrink method. For the slow shrink method, you have a little bit of water and mostly acetone. I think it's like 10% water. I didn't measure it out exactly, I just kind of guesstimated based on the size of the jar and the head. It took so much time. I think I spent a week with the slow shrink method and it didn't really shrink as much as I wanted. And then I decided I'm just gonna go ahead and do the fast shrink method, and it worked a lot better. I'm about halfway through letting the head dry here, but I'm worried that if I don't put the head back on the body now, it will not fit the neck hole later. I want it to tighten around the neck as it dries. As you can see, it's definitely an airtight seal, so I need to do something to ventilate the head as it finishes drying. I'm using a tack to place a hole in the back of the head where it won't be seen and will be out of the way. Now, while I wait for the head to finish drying, I am going to be working on Charley's bodysuit. And for my inspiration, I really like the original 1990 Batman cartoon where Harley Quinn has the full Harley Quinn suit, but I do like some of the more recent versions of the Harley Quinn comics, so I'm going to be combining those looks. For the pattern, I'm using the BTS basic set from Missy Imagining's website. I will link that in the description box below. I actually got some sewing footage here on my machine. And I was surprised. I had no trouble sewing the spandex. I know that like sewing stretchy fabric is usually pretty difficult, but my machine just cooperated. I don't know if it's because it was a little thicker or what. To sew the pants, I start with the red section, sew them down the outside seam of the pant leg, and then I do the same for the black. Once those are done, I sew them together at the crotch and then at the back of the butt. After that step is completed, you just sew from the ankle all the way down to the other ankle. And the pants are mostly done. I'm going to be doing some distressing later and adjusting their fit. Here's how they've looked before I've done any adjustments. The spandex thankfully doesn't really need any hemming. It doesn't fray and it has a nice clean edge. I've already sewn the middle piece of the front of the shirt and the back, and I'm just going to make a few cuts and adjust the neckline. Off camera, I've also trimmed the waist of the shirt and made it into more of a pointed crop top. I want to see a little bit of skin there. I use some fabric glue to hem the top of the waist. Sometimes Harley has a white belt with some high pants, so I'm going to use this suede ribbon with metal stars as an easy belt, and I'm just going to glue it straight onto the pants. The shirt will be able to be removed by pulling it over the head just like a human would take off their clothing, but I don't intend for the pants to ever be removed. After working on the outfit for a day or two, I think the head is mostly done shrinking, so I'm going to go ahead and mix up some 2-part epoxy and start filling in the gap in his poor cranium. I mixed this off camera with gloves on. I don't have a reaction to using the clay straight on my skin after the initial mix. And it's just easier for me to sculpt with my fingers. After the clay has cured for 24 hours, I give it a quick sanding and then go ahead and try to color match. I used this acrylic paint straight out of the bottle. I thought it was pretty close. Later, I found that it really wasn't, and I do correct that with pastels. Since Charley has a new super hard head that I will not be able to reroute with, I'm just going to go ahead and make him a quick wig cap. I pulled a baby wipe tight over his head and given it a few coats of Elmer's glue all. While that's drying, I'm going to start working on the fiber for the wefts. I have 100% chunky acrylic yarn and a very nice light blonde color. Instead of doing the brush method, I prefer to do the pull or tug method where you unravel the fibers and then gently pull the loose ends and repeat back and forth until they're all about the same length. In order to neatly glue the wefts, I trim one end so that all the edges are flat and even. I was in a bit of a hurry, so I opted for hot glue this time. I lay some glue out in a straight line and then carefully laid the fibers into the glue and worked them in with a silicone fingertip. This is still quite hot, so you have to be careful. I have a nice pile, and I admit they're very rough looking. I probably shouldn't have hurried so much. Now that the wig cap is dry, I carefully remove it. It's actually still a little wet and pliable, but that's okay. It'll finish drying as I work. I mark the edges and trim the cap. Since I'm still in a hurry, I go ahead and continue using hot glue to glue the wefts to the cap. I don't really know what kind of hairstyle I'm going for at this point, so I'm just trying to keep in mind a middle part. I go around the edges of the cap and work my way up. I don't really want Charley to have very thick hair, so I am keeping the layers kind of far spread apart to start with. They get closer together as you get closer to the top of the head, however. For the part line, I thought I would mark the middle and then go ahead and cut through the cap and glue the wefts onto the underside. I don't know if I just put too much glue, but it was kind of chunky. It did look kind of nice though. In order to repair the cut in the cap, I go ahead and add a few extra wefts and crisscross them, gluing them with hot glue on the inside of the cap, sort of making a patch with the hair. This covered it up nicely, but it added too much volume that with the kind of chunky wefts that I made, the wig was very high. So off camera, I went ahead and made another wig, this time skipping the cap step and just gluing it straight to the saran wrap. I still don't know what kind of style I'm going for, but I do know I want to do Harley Quinn's split blue and red hair. In order to achieve those colors, I'm dipping a toothbrush in my pan pastels in red and blue and brushing it through the yarn. Now to remove the wig from the head without messing everything up. I want to keep the saran wrap that the wefts are glued to. It's really what has become the new wig cap. It works just fine. It stays pretty flexible. Yeah, I'm satisfied with that. Now it's time to color correct the head color to the torso. I gave the head a spray of MSC off camera. I'm going to give the body a coat of Liquitex matte varnish instead of MSC. I think it works pretty well against the harder plastic of the body versus it gets kind of sticky on the vinyl. I apply it with a cut makeup sponge so that there aren't any streaks, and it has a decent like toothy texture. A little bit more extreme than MSC has though. Once that's all dry, I go ahead and start blushing the head and the body. I want to have the option of taking Charlie's shirt off later. I didn't do it for any of the photos, but it's still completely removable. As I'm adding the pastels, I'm adding a little bit of yellow to the torso and adding pinks to the head in order to blend them together. Once I'm done with that, I go ahead and spray the torso and the head with MSC. I want to seal all those pastels in with Mr. Super Clear. If I were to try to go over them on the body with the Liquitex, it would just smudge it all over the place. For the face, I start by sketching in what I hope is a nice Harley Quinn-ish expression. I sketch everything in with a brown watercolor pencil and then start applying red and blue pastels for the eyeshadow. Just because Charlie's male does not mean he will be skipping the iconic Harley Quinn makeup. In a lot of the comics, and I think even the cartoon show, Harley had straight white, like paper skin. And my daughter asked why. I told her that it was so that she mirrored the Joker. So even though my Harley has a human skin tone, I am adding in quite a bit of layers of white. In some of the Harley Quinn comics, Harley has a clover tattoo on her right shoulder and a heart tattoo on her left. At this point, I did not remember the heart one, but I do add it later. I think this is the second layer of the face-up, and I'm just going ahead and adding more pencils to darken the colors and brighten up the brights. Just like my last couple face-ups, I'm going to be finishing this face with watercolor paints. My gouache paints have totally failed, and I can no longer really use them, but I get a similar effect with watercolor paints. You just have to make sure you seal them really well so that they don't run or get lifted up on the next layer. I really wanted to emphasize Charlie's big smile. That's actually why I chose Daring for this custom. I'm just adding more white pastel to bring out the raised surfaces on Charley's face even more. I think the head continued to shrink after I put the epoxy sculpt in place, and I got a very, very slight crack, just enough for you to see the edge of the clay underneath the paint across his forehead. So I just decided to go ahead and turn that into a wound. I do admit my version of Charley is probably a little bit more violent than the 1990s cartoon, but he is a mix. After I'm satisfied with the face-up, I am going to go ahead and attempt to style his hair. I secure the wig in place with some Loctite wall putty. Then I start hacking at his beautiful long locks. I don't really know what I'm going for even at this point. I was thinking like maybe doing a mohawk. I think I've seen some femme Harley Quinn artwork where she has a mohawk and that looks really cool. But at the same time, I wanted to go for a longer hairstyle since most of the versions of her that I've seen have longer. So it's just a little shorter. It kind of makes me think of like a Psycho Karen look. I want to go ahead and bring the hair out in little spikes and taper the ends. So I just have some Mod Podge mixed with water, and I'm applying it with my fingers and shaping the hair. I also stole Daring's hands. The BTS hands are very like weird robotically stiff, and I don't love them. These have more personality and look like they could like hold his hammer better or his mallet. For Charley's shoes, I'm using a pair of stock BTS shoes. These are the high tops. I think they're a little less common and only came with one of the boys. I'm not sure. But they're based off of one of the looks that Harley has in the comics. And while I got my red paint out, I'm going to go ahead and paint that heart that I had forgotten earlier. I clean up the soles of the shoes with some white acrylic paint. While those are drying, I go ahead and seal in the hands with some Mod Podge glue. Then I do the same to the shoes. I had some scrap fabric from trimming the outfit. I turned the pieces into cuffs for the gloves. I also made Charley some high socks with 2 painted blue stripes. The look I want has a zipper going down the front of the tank top. So I use a very thin strip of nail art tape and just glue that onto the front of the shirt. And I have a very small piece of metallic wrapping paper that I cut into a diamond shape and use that for the zipper. I finish off the zipper with a nail art half bead. Now, to do the diamonds. I tried painting red diamonds on a black piece of scrap spandex. It was very messy, it was blotchy, it didn't look good at all. So I figured the best way to solve this would be just to go ahead and use some more spandex and glue it straight on. I did 3 stars before I got that very chunky star. It was the best I could do. Now the 1990s version of Harley, she usually has a mallet. The more recent version, she carries a baseball bat, but I like the comical effect of the oversized hammer. So we're going to go ahead and make that using a piece of like an old empty toilet paper roll, a pencil from the dollar store that is terrible and I will never use, and some scrap grocery bags. I stuff the grocery bags into the toilet paper roll so that it holds its shape. I don't want it collapsing later. I just glue that in place with some hot glue. Then, to smooth out the outside, I have some craft foam, and I'm going to wrap the toilet paper with that. I glue it in several places in long straight lines so that it's nice and secure. I fold the edge and trim it down. I traced the ends of the toilet paper roll and made some nice little circles that aren't quite the right shape, but that's okay, and I glue them down. Then I glue the edges and I melt the foam a little bit with the tip of my glue gun. Then I pump the inside full of hot glue and secure the pencil in place. Foam takes a lot of paint. So I got this foam primer a while ago, hoping that it would help with that. So this is the first time I'm using it. We'll see how it does. I coated everything with the foam primer, and then off camera I gave it a coat of like a nice medium brown. I'm hoping looks like wood. For the design on the hammer, I wanted to go like kind of messy, like Harley painted it herself. So my lines are not very straight, and I paint it kind of in a hurry because I imagine that Harley would be very impatient and not wait for the first layer of paint to dry before adding the next one. On the ends, I painted the word POW and a kind of creepy smiley face in a nice dark red. Then I painted the center with just plain white to make it pop. I gave one end motion lines, kind of like action lines you would see in a comic book. And then I highlighted the eyes and the teeth on the creepy face. And with that, Charley Quinn is done. Thank you so much for watching, and please make sure to check out everyone who participated in the collaborations videos. The artists who participated are, his name is Akin, Val Kitty's World, Artie Sin, Sky the Golden, Electric Bunny One of a Kind, Heliophobiant Dolls, and myself, Blurred Colors Art. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm sorry if I sound a little bit scatterbrained. I was in a rush to get the voiceover done, so I skipped writing the script. Let me know what you think about how I sounded though. If you prefer this type of voiceover versus the scripted and super well timed, please let me know. These type of voiceovers are a little easier for me to do. I feel a little awkward, but I still have fun with it. So just let me know what you prefer. And let me know what you think of Charley. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.